I used to think the scariest problems in marriage announced themselves loudly. Shouting matches, slammed doors, long nights of silence where you both know something is wrong, but neither of you wants to say it out loud. I believed that if something was breaking, I'd feel it cracking under my feet. Our marriage didn't feel like that. It felt normal, comfortably, boringly normal. We had routines that fit together like muscle memory. Coffee in the morning, hers with oat milk, mine black. A quick kiss by the door that had become more symbolic than passionate, but still warm. Evenings on the couch with separate phones, legs tangled more out of habit than desire. Weekend grocery runs, laundry on Sundays, complaints about work, plans we talked about more than we acted on. I genuinely thought that was what stability looked like. I never suspected infidelity because there was nothing dramatic to suspect. No sudden secrecy, no coldness, no obvious distance. If anything, I thought we were doing well for a couple married as long as we were. We didn't fight much. We didn't have explosive passion, but we had trust. Or at least, what I thought was trust. Looking back now, I realize how dangerous that assumption was, how much I equated calm with safety. At the time, though, I felt lucky. I felt settled. I felt like I was standing on solid ground. This story isn't about how I caught my wife cheating in some cinematic way. It's about how I learned that a life can look perfectly intact right up until the moment you realize it's been hollowed out from the inside. I'm writing this now because enough time has passed that I can finally look at it honestly. Not just what she did, but what I ignored, what I believed, and what I lost. And maybe because someone else reading this is standing exactly where I used to stand, convinced that nothing seems wrong means nothing is wrong. The first sign wasn't a text message or a strange phone call. It was her energy. She started coming home lighter, not happier exactly, just charged, like she'd plugged herself into something during the day and was still humming when she walked through the door. She talked more, laughed quicker. Sometimes she seemed impatient with me in a way that didn't feel angry, just distracted. I told myself it was work. She'd recently switched teams, and everyone says change can do that to a person. Then there were small things I noticed and immediately explained away. She started taking her phone with her everywhere, even to rooms she never used to bring it into. She angled the screen slightly away when she texted. She began dressing better for work, putting effort into outfits she used to save for weekends or events. None of it was proof. None of it screamed affair. The actual discovery was painfully mundane. One night, she fell asleep early on the couch. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table, not loudly, just enough to catch my attention. I didn't pick it up at first. I really didn't want to be that guy. Then it buzzed again. I glanced down, fully expecting to see her sister's name or a work group chat. Instead, I saw a notification preview that didn't belong to either. Can't stop thinking about last night. That was it. One sentence, no name, just a contact saved with a first name I didn't recognize. My brain didn't immediately jump to conclusions. It did something worse. It tried to negotiate. Could be a joke, could be about work, could be taken out of context. But my body knew before my mind caught up. My stomach dropped. My hands went cold. I picked up the phone. I won't pretend I hesitated long. The trust I thought we had evaporated in that second, replaced by something feral and desperate. Her phone unlocked easily. She'd never changed the code. The messages weren't subtle. They weren't poetic. They weren't even particularly romantic. They were familiar. Inside jokes. Complaints about their days. Flirtation that had crossed a line weeks ago. Explicit messages that confirmed what I didn't want to believe. She hadn't just cheated once. She was having an affair. I sat there in the dark, scrolling, feeling like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. Like this couldn't possibly be happening to us. To the marriage I thought was boring in a good way. When I finally stopped reading, my wife was still asleep beside me, breathing softly, completely unaware that everything had changed. I didn't confront her right away. I thought I would. I imagined waking her up, demanding answers, screaming. Instead, I sat there until morning, rehearsing conversations that all sounded wrong. When she woke up, she smiled at me, asked what I wanted for breakfast. That nearly broke me. I waited until the evening, after work, after dinner, after all the normal rituals we'd unknowingly performed for the last time. I told her we needed to talk. She knew immediately. I could see it in her face, the calculation, the fear, the split second where she decided whether to lie or tell the truth. I asked her who he was. She went quiet. Then she cried. Then she apologized. Not in a clean, honest way, but in fragments, half-sentences, excuses layered over guilt. She said it just happened. She said she hadn't meant for it to go that far. She said she'd been feeling disconnected, lonely, invisible. She said it didn't mean she didn't love me. That last one hurt the most. I asked how long. She hesitated, then told me a timeline that was already worse than I'd imagined, and I knew instinctively it wasn't the full truth. I asked if it was over. She said yes too quickly. I asked why she didn't tell me she was unhappy. She said she didn't know how, that she didn't want to hurt me, that she thought she could handle it. I remember thinking how strange it was that she'd chosen the one path guaranteed to hurt me the most. The conversation went in circles. Every answer created new questions. Every explanation felt incomplete. By the end, I wasn't angry anymore. I was exhausted. Like I'd run an emotional marathon without training. The days that followed were worse than the discovery. Shock gave way to anger. Sharp, unpredictable bursts of it. I'd snap over nothing. Replay messages in my head like they were burned into my brain. Compare myself to someone I'd never met. Then came sadness, a deep, hollow grief that felt disproportionate to what had happened, until I realized what I was mourning wasn't just fidelity. It was the life I thought I had. I mourned the version of my marriage where trust was unquestioned, where memories felt solid instead of tainted, where I didn't second-guess every smile or late night. I questioned myself relentlessly. Was I blind, neglectful, too comfortable? I dissected years of interactions, looking for the moment I must have failed. Sleep became difficult. Food lost its taste. I moved through my days like a ghost, functioning but not really present. At some point, the anger returned, but it changed shape. It stopped being explosive and became quieter, heavier, less about rage and more about disappointment. Eventually, acceptance crept in. Not forgiveness, not peace, but the understanding that this had happened, whether I wanted it to or not. We talked about counseling, about working through it, about rebuilding trust. And maybe we could have. Maybe some couples do. But I realized something uncomfortable. Even if she never cheated again, I would never be the same in this marriage. I would always be watching, wondering, measuring. I didn't want to become that version of myself. So I chose to leave, not dramatically, not with ultimatums or screaming matches, just a quiet decision made after many sleepless nights. She cried. She asked for another chance. She promised change. I believed she meant it. But belief wasn't enough anymore. We separated, divided our lives into boxes and schedules and paperwork. It was painful and slow and lonely, but it was honest. I used to think betrayal was something you survived by being stronger, smarter, more vigilant. Now, I think it's something you survive by being honest, with yourself most of all. I learned that stability can be an illusion, that comfort isn't the same as connection, that silence doesn't always mean peace. If I could offer advice to anyone reading this, it would be this. Don't assume that nothing is wrong means everything is right. Talk more. Ask uncomfortable questions. Pay attention, not with suspicion, but with presence. And if you do find yourself where I was, know this. You're allowed to choose yourself, even if the decision feels like a loss. Sometimes walking away isn't giving up. Sometimes it's the first honest step forward.